Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Chäos at Noah. Beim letzten Mal war Takuya auf einmal alleine in der Welt und ist dann auf der Shibuya Crossing einem Mann im Rollstuhl begegnet, welcher sich als Shogun herausgestellt hat. Und danach waren auf einmal alle Leute wieder da und Remi musste uns erstmal von der Kreuzung bekommen. Und jetzt sind wir gerade dabei, ist gerade die Polizei dabei mit Ban und Suwa war das, glaube ich, die Fälle nochmal durchzuarbeiten. The slideshow swapped to a picture of also den ersten Fall hatten wir schon, jetzt ist der zweite Fall dran. The slideshow swapped to a picture of the second case, the Shibuya Station undergrad and fetus homicide case.
通称妊娠男事件についてですが、事件発生は9月19日、通称集団ダイブ事件から12日後。第一発見者は現場近くのカラオケ店店員、遺体発見は午前5時前後。被害者は渋谷区在住の大学3年生、近衛千鶴夫21歳。発見された時にはすでに死亡してました。死亡推定時刻は遺体発見の約4時間前、19日の午前1時頃です。遺体は腹部が不自然に大きく膨れ上がっており、中から胎児が発見されました。司法解剖の結果、被害者は生きたまま腹部を何者かに切開され、胃の中に胎児を入れられたようです。胎児はすでにその時点で亡くなっていたと思われます。被害者が死亡したのは腹部を縫合された後、縫合した部分をかきむしったり、縫合糸を一部引きちぎった形跡が見られました。胎児は妊娠8ヶ月ぐらいの状態で、母親の体から帝王切開で取り上げられたと考えられます。胎児の母親については今のところ見つかってません。その生死についても不明です。 DNA 鑑定の結果、胎児と被害者には血縁関係はありませんでした。ちなみに胎児の血液型は B 型、被害者の血液型は A 型です。
Suwa took a breath. He seemed exhausted from all the talking. Furthermore, he must have been awfully nervous giving a presentation in front of so many senior
次に
detectives.
第3の事件、丸山町貼り付け殺人事件です。
After a short delay, the next slide disappeared a photo of the crime scene.
これが現場写真です。事件発生は9月29日。被害者は太田久志56歳、都東大学教授。第一発見者は現場のすぐ近くのアパートに住む男性。被害者の死因は絞殺でした。殺害された後で10本程度の釘を使って貼り付けにされていました。見ての通り、遺体には外傷はほとんどありません。釘についても、貼り付けは一部肉体を貫通しているものもありましたが、基本的には衣服を通して貼り付けられている状態です。マスコミでは貼り付け、血の惨劇などと謳われてますが、出血は全くなし。釘はドイツのクロイツナーゲル社が販売している特徴的な長い十字架のような釘です。
Eine deutsche Company mit dem Namen Kreuznagel. Klingt ja super.
犯人が十字架型をあえて選んだということから、宗教的な側面からも捜査を進めてます。事件の起きた21時から21時半の間に、現場周辺で壁に杭を打ちつける音が数十分続いていたという証言が複数得られました。被害者の死亡推定時刻がほぼそれと同じ時間であることから、おそらく被害者は現場かそのすぐ近くで殺害されたと思われます。また信憑性は怪しいですが、事件現場で私立水明学園の女生徒を見たという証言も上がってます。最後に井の頭線渋谷駅トイレ殺人事件、通称ヴァンパイア事件です。事件発生は10月10日。遺体発見は午前5時半ごろ、駅員が発見しました。 被害者の身元は今のところ不明。身元を示すような遺留品は一切ありませんでした。死亡推定時刻は前日の午前10時から午後6時の間。遺体の血液は全て抜かれており、まるでミイラのような状態で放置されていました。ご存知の通り、この写真が何者かによって撮影され、遺体発見より15分ほど前にインターネットのオークションに出品されており、
As he listened to Suva's explanation, Ben gave a light click of the tongue. Seems like death is what it's in these days. Damit haben wir Chapter 3 Shogun abgeschlossen. Chapter 4 D-Sword. Science City was a pair of buildings located just south of the Shibuya Scramble Crossing. A small plaza rested in front of the entrance to the east building, where it was not nearly as big as the one in front of Hachiko, the Moyai statue or other popular destinations. It still found itself and used quite often as a meeting place. Even now, around a dozen people were staring at their cell phones, waiting for their engagements to begin. Among those few, only one girl wore an oddly stern expression on her face as she idled, a high school student known as Aoi Senna. She was standing next to the escalator leading down from the Inukashira line station. She leaned her back against the nearby red pillar as she thoroughly scanned the environment with her gaze. In contrast to both the sharpness of her gaze and the season, she was nibbling on a popsicle, which in turn made her appear incredibly charming to the casual observer. In truth, the girl was not waiting for anyone, but was instead quietly observing the passers-by. From where she was standing, she could see all the way to the Jumbotron located at Scramble Crossing. A music video from a famous singer was being displayed on it, and on the lower portion of the screen a news ticker was reporting the latest information on the recent string of incidents, colloquially referred as to New Gen. Not a day went by without New Gen related news. It was everywhere. TV, newspapers, internet, weekly magazines, jumbotrons, electronic billboards, everywhere. Also, Senna had absolutely no interest in the phenomenon. She would often overhear people speaking about it as she passed them by on the streets of Shibuya. Whose eyes are those eyes? Over the past few days, she had begun to see several people wearing t-shirts with those words embedded on them. In Shibuya, the phrase had become popular as an obscure meme, and it was now starting to really take off. Despite the brutal scene, the words originated from people happily walked on and down the streets raving about how well the shirts were selling at souvenir shops in Harajuku, a clear indication at how disinterested people were in anything other than themselves. Senna snorted quietly in a contemptuous display, finished the last bite of her popsicle and closed her eyes softly without losing her stern expression. She listened carefully to the noise of the city, an abundance of different sounds billowed in front of the station on the Sunday afternoon. The roar of the trains arriving at the platform, the blaring horns of taxis, people walking and talking, the background music coming from the jumbotrons and from inside the Science City stores. The announcements telling people how to safely ride the escalators. The sounds were never allowed to end. Before one sound finished, another one would appear, creating a multi-layer discord that rang throughout the station. In the midst of all the discordant noise, Senna focused her attention only on the people's voices. Her mind blocked out all the other sound, and the words soon became clear.
結局全部同じ犯人なのかな。
ニュースで言ってたぞ。手口が違いすぎるって。なんかっつうバンドの歌詞と一緒らしいじゃん。ファンタズムなんだ。お前あのバンド好きなの？こじつけて有名なだけの。今時ファンタズム知らないなんてさ。CD 貸せよ。くれてるよな。ほら、これ見てくれ。この前から超ゲルのメタル結構来るじゃね。マジで来てるやつ初めて見た。でもあれじゃね。これってニュージェネの犯人に殺してくださいってアピールしてるようなもんじゃん。 俺もいよいよ全国デビューが。
最近渋谷超怖くない？マジ一人で歩けねえもん。何よ、なんかそういう噂がクラスで殺される可能性あるじゃない？同じ女だし、キモい男とかだけ殺してほしいよね。私マジ応援する。
A short kick of the tongue escaped from Senna's mouth, and she stopped listening soon after. There was nothing of value to be found in any of the noise. After all, noise was simply that, noise. Once more, Senna examined her surroundings. For a while now, she had been feeling a repulsive sensation like cold fingers caressing her spine, a gaze being cast upon her by an unknown entity, one with which she had unable to pinpoint exactly what the source was. Senna pushed herself off of the pillar she was leaning against. Then, as if she had just remembered something, she stared down at the popsicle stick in her hand. Looks like I lost her. Gradually growing more and more discontent, she wrinkled her brow and began to walk quite quickly towards the station. Because someone wished for it to be. No, but I did. Because this place is your image world, but at the same time it is mine as well. Wherever you wish for it to be. Das ist tatsächlich nicht so unwichtig, diese Stelle. Das müsste Sarah sein. Sarah was calling me. Last night's episode of Platoon was awesome. Sarah played a huge part in it, and there was a super hot kiss scene, and the animation quality was practically movie tier 2. Sarah was calling me. Plus she was saying such moral things that I could not wake up. Was für ein geiler Klingelton, ey. I tore the blanket off my body and got up from the sofa with a groan. The moment I turned off my alarm clock, the voice of Sarah that had been echoing throughout the room disappeared.
Sarah.
The Sarah alarm clock I had was very useful. If I didn't turn it off, the volume would slowly get louder and louder, and if I still didn't get up, an obnoxious buzzer sound would ring it. But I wanted it to be Sarah who woke me up in the morning, so I made it a point to wake up and turn it off before the buzzer. I'd only failed to do so once or twice so far. After all, being woken up by Sarah was a great way to start the day. Waking up was absolute worst. I had played video until dawn, and the couch had been extremely uncomfortable once I actually had gone to sleep. But having her to wake me up helped alleviate some of that pain. Today was a school day. I had skipped a day last week, so my minimum attendance chart was really starting to fall apart. With the chart, I was only started to go twice this week, but because of that deviation, I was stuck with having to go 3 times instead. I didn't want to go, but it would be much worse if I didn't. If I missed any more days, I wouldn't be able to graduate. Then again, whether or not I graduated made no difference to me, to be honest. Just a moment ago I'd been having a dream with Remy in it. It was a strange dream. One that felt terribly wistful. One that felt terribly lonesome. One that felt terribly sad. And one that felt terribly distant. Would Remy come to school today? I had been thinking about the day before yesterday constantly. I had been thinking about it so often that I had even forgotten to play SO yesterday. There had been the appearance of Shogun and the delusions where every person in Shibuya disappeared, but I was barely giving either of those things any thought. It had to have just been a delusion of mine. There was no way Shogun could be such an old man, and the idea of people just disappearing from Shibuya or whatever was completely ridiculous, so there was no point worrying about it. It had been a horrible realistic delusion, sure, but the fact that I had allowed myself to fall for something so unrealistic so easily and get all freaked out about it was just embarrassing. But regardless, above all else, I was thinking about Remy, the girl I had been calling the demon girl until only a couple days ago. Most of what I had felt back then was shaky and surreal, as if it were some sort of dream, but I couldn't still vividly remember the sensation of Remy's body embracing my own. If she hadn't done that, I could have gone insane and lost myself completely. Why had Remy saved me? Maybe because we really were friends. I didn't have any memories of us being classmates now, let alone since first year, nor did I remember going to the movies with her along with Misumi-kun. But the way she treated me was definitely how you would treat a real close friend. She had even seemed like she had been close to crying when she held me. That, at the very least, didn't think was an act. That was the first time I had ever seen a girl care about, let alone cry over an otaku freak like me. When she had treated me like that, all of my fears and suspicions were blown away in an instant. In fact, it would have made me feel like I might fall in love with her. No, obviously I couldn't let myself do that. Confusion invaded every corner of my mind. How was I supposed to act around Remy from now on? Was Remy my ally or my enemy? Was Remy the new gen culprit? She had saved me, and that was an undeniable fact. But it was just as much of an act of a fact that I hadn't seen her standing still as I could be at the scene. Still as could be at the scene of the crucifixion covered in blood. On my way to school, I stopped by Shoto Park. After what had happened with Yua, I had put a stop to my habit of eating breakfast there before going to school. There was no way I could feel even remotely relaxed when I thought that Yua could be watching me from anywhere. And even if I ignored that, if she came up to talk to me, she would start going off about her irritating delusional shizo bullshit all over again. I didn't want anything to do with a girl like her. Yua was Remy's underling. Sure, my original guess may have been incorrect. But that didn't mean that Yua wasn't my enemy. It was still possible that Shogun was the boss of the whole thing and Yua was one of his underlings. Either way, I knew I would be better off staying as far away from her as I could. And yet I found myself coming here today for some reason. I examined my surroundings carefully to make sure that I couldn't see Yua anywhere, and once I knew the coast was clear, I slowly sat down on my usual chair. I took a bite of the chocolate bread I just bought from the convenience store and then looked out at the pond. There was next to no wind on the surface, and the water was calm and serene. I could see the occasional shadows of carp-esque fish gliding through the murky water. The park was unusually empty today. It was a very quiet spot. As my gaze wandered across the park, I couldn't help but think about Remy. To be honest, I had been dreading going to school today. I knew I would have to face her if I did. That was the real reason why I was stalling at the park. I felt like I'd said a lot of awful things to her, and yet the smile on her face never faltered, and she always treated me like I was a close friend. And I was sure that when I went to school today, she would keep on doing that as if nothing had ever had even happened. She would smile and talk to me like we were friends, pretending that she didn't even care all about what had happened in front of 107. It was hard to put it into words, but I felt like but I felt a little bit annoyed by her constant cheerfulness. Also irgendwie habe ich das Gefühl, dass meine Konzentration gerade komplett in den Bach runtergeht. Yet at the same time, I also ended up feeling more cheerful myself when I was with her. I wasn't sure how to act once I did run into her. It was true that I didn't think she was a demon anymore. But honestly, I didn't think of her as a friend either. Misumi-kun had said that she and I had been really close classmates for the past year and a half, but I didn't remember anything like that at all. Maybe it really was because of the person controlling me. But making my memories of Remy and only Remy disappear with pinpoint accuracy like that, there was no way that was possible. Upon entering the school building, I lowered my head even further towards the ground. As was my usual MO, I kept close to the wall and walked slowly towards the staircase. My class was on the 3rd floor. Getting up there was a pretty big hassle. They could really use an accelerator or something. Oh, pat pat pat. When I reached the foot of the staircase, I spotted a girl climbing unsteadily up the stairs. She was dragging her right leg a little as she walked. Maybe she'd twisted it. Her petite body swayed from side to side. She looked extremely unstable. As other students passed by one after the other, the girl slowly continued to climb exactly one step at a time. Watching her from below, I would be able to see her panties any second now. Shit. If I kept this up, I would be labeled a total pervert. Last thing I needed was to go in front of a mirror and see myself as Bill Clinton or something. Das ist ein harter Diss gegen Bill Clinton. Aber naja, er hat sich den Ruf auch dementsprechend erarbeitet, daher. Selber schuld, wenn man sowas anfängt. With that thought in mind, I stepped onto the stairs in order to pass through the girl. But right when I did, the girl caught the tip of her shoe on one of the steps and she immediately staggered. Oh. She then fell downward and you could almost hear the crash sound effect. Fortunately, she had ended up falling on the landing, so she hadn't fallen down the entire staircase. She was still down on her knees from the pain through and was still staying pretty still. Could this be a flag? Yeah, no way. Even if it was, calling out to her anything remotely similar would be impossible for me. So I hurriedly slipped past her. Sorry, but you should get some womanizer who is actually into 3D to help you. Someone like Misumi-kun. You really shouldn't rely on me. But the girl was staying curled up on the ground, so motionless I started to get a little worried. I was halfway up the stairs when I slowly turned back around to check on her. The girl was gripping onto the railing and trying absolute hardest to stand back up. Oh. Her knees were trembling. She looked like a newborn fawn or something. Her knee was oozing blood. Maybe she had scrapped it. Her face, I had seen it before. Wasn't she the girl who had transferred into my class last week? What was her name again? I couldn't remember. Oh wow, she was crying. Did it hurt that badly? The fall had definitely been pretty bad, but not bad enough that she would cry from it. There was nobody else willing to lend a hand. After just barely managing to stand up, she bent forward and peered down at her knee. She must have been checking to see if she had hurt. The transfer student wiped away her tears, sat down her back on the spot and started rummaging around inside it. What's she looking for, I wondered. Suddenly she raised her hand above her head in a triumphant manner. Clasped in her hand was a band-aid. Our eyes met. The transfer student went red in surprise and soon after, then hung her head. Regardless, she looked like she was okay, so I was sure she would be fine without me. Thinking that, I hurriedly made my way to the class. As per usual, I kept my head down and my gaze fixed on my toes. And while still remaining silent, I took my seat. When I sat down, I remembered that the transfer student had said something to me on the day she had transferred. I'm so happy we are in the same class or something. I had forgotten all about it after everything with Remy, but I wondered what she had meant by that.
Yo, Dark.
Still according to routine, Misumi called out to me. Maybe he didn't have any other friends besides me. He had always talked to me and no one else, so I was starting to genuinely suspect that.
聞いてくれよ。昨日さ、怪しいおっさん2人が校長室に入ってくのを見たんだ。で、俺とリミトでこっそり盗み聞きしてみたらびっくりしたぜ。その2人、刑事だったんだぜ。
え？
Detectives?
深刻そうに全校生徒の名簿とか見ててよ。もしかしてニュージェネと関係あんのかな？
Maybe the true new gen culprit was someone at this very school. I couldn't help it, but a face popped into my mind, Dreamies.
盗み聞きしてたら見事にバレちゃったんだけどね。
I jumped. Speak of the devil, Jesus Christ, I felt my heart rate leap when I heard Dreamies first invade the conversation. I couldn't look up, I was too nervous, but this was completely different kind of nervousness than last week's.
あれはお前がドア勝手に開けたせいだぞ。分かってんのか？
しょうがないでしょ。本物の刑事さんって見るの初めてだったからちょっと興奮しちゃってつい。
I just kinda did.
どうやったらついドアを開けるんだよ。おかげで俺らまで刑事から話を聞かれる羽目になったんだからな。
大臣ってば刑事さんに聞かれちゃまずいことでもあったの？
そういうお前はどうなのだ？
さあね。
Oh man. Misumi-kun and me were having a conversation with my desk sandwiched in between them. They were completely ignoring my existence. But to be honest, I was grateful for that. Even if Rumi did talk to me, I didn't have any faith that I would be able to say anything back. I was hoping that the bell would ring before they got the chance to say anything to me. But when I glanced at the clock, I saw there were still about 5 minutes until class started.
そういやタク、ここに来る途中で梢ちゃん見なかったか？
Koze-chan?
ああ、
Who?
そっか。どうせお前のことだから覚えてねえとは思ったけど、マジでそうだったんだな。先週転校してきた子のことだよ。折原梢ちゃん。
Oh, so that was the name. Orihara Kozue.
階段で
階段？
見た。
お、そっか。じゃあもうすぐ来るな。
It looks like I will be right back. Oh man. Misumi-kun's voice gave off an aura of intense enthusiasm. I hadn't seen him in this energetic since a few days ago when he had found out that Fasten was from the next class over. In other words, I'd never seen him give his all for anything except girls. Which reminded me that just last week Misumi-kun had already gone to hit on the transfer student the moment she had arrived. You really are incorrigible. You've got a girlfriend and everything. I hope you're really proud.
梢ちゃんってマジ可愛いと思わねえ？
He asked me something I hadn't had trouble answering. I moved my head down ambitiously, which he apparently took as a yes.
俺一目で気に入っちまったよ。なんか守ってやりたくなるんだよな。男子みんなも同じ意見だよ。どいつも可愛いって言ってんだ。けどよ、女子の間じゃあんま評判良くねえんだよな。まだ転校してきたばっかだぜ。それなのに早くもうざいみたいな意見まで出てきてんだよ。このクラスの女子って性格悪いやつ多すぎだ。
Und trotzdem hättest du an jeder einzelne von denen an.
それって大臣のせいじゃないの？だいたいそのうざいって言ったのどうせ大臣の彼女でしょ？
ああ、そうだけど。
そりゃあ彼女にしてみればうざいに決まってるよ。自分の彼氏が目の前で折原さんを口説きに行っちゃってたらさ。私でさえよく喧嘩売られるんだから。大輔君に近寄らないでって。しかも一人じゃなくて何人かから言われた。
マジ？
自覚なしか。少しは反省したら？
いやー、モテる男は辛いぜ。
これだよ。
Oh man.
さすが女の敵。私フォローしてあげないからね。あ、折原さん来た。
なんか
怪我してるみたいじゃね。
本当だ。どうしたんだろう。
She had gotten hurt back when I saw her on the stairs. I obviously wasn't going to tell them that, so I was trying to avoid talking to Remy in any way possible.
ちょっと言ってくれ。
Misumi-kun ran up to where the transfer student was. Thanks to that, Remy was the only one left standing close to my desk. Misumi-kun, please don't go. Aber ich würde sagen, bevor ich jetzt die Delusion reinkicke, beende ich hier diese Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal.